Anytime Sony used a model number that was 1000, that was always their flagship best product, right? That was the best one they had, right? No, it wasn't, but it was a good machine. This time it's an SLVR1000 Super VHS machine. Many consider this to be one of the best VCRs that Sony ever made, and it is a good machine, but it does have some flaws. So let's check it out. I was wondering why it seemed dark, and here it appears that I have lost a light. This time I have an SLVR1000. This one has a loading problem, so before I even get into it, we're going to pull it apart and see whether it's the classic blue gear or whether we have another fault. Well, it doesn't appear to be a blue gear problem on this machine. Everything's intact. Everything's moving freely. So let's load up a tape and see what it's doing. So the unit plays okay, so there's not a problem with the actual machine itself as far as playback goes. So just where's the fault? That didn't sound right. I have a sneaking suspicion it's slipping here on the loading motor. Down here, I think this is probably cracked. Aha! The collar is cracked on the loading motor. Real common problem. Plastic shrinks over time, cracks, and then it can slip. And on heavier tape loads, that was a light tape load, on a heavier tape, it likely would not eject. So what I need to do is remove the front loader, remove the motor, and glue that broken or cracked plastic. It's basically a collar that fits onto it and drives with the drive gear. I have to glue that onto the end of the shaft so that it can't slip. That's done by removing the front cover. Release the clips. We don't need to take it off all the way. We just need to pull it off far enough to get to the screws that hold the front loader in place. I can lift out the front loader. I can push the rest of the machine back. We don't need this right now. Next, I need to release the motor bracket or motor from the gear assembly. So we're just going to pop out the plastic clips. There's 3 of them. And I have to get to this gear. So next I'll remove the motor from the actual bracket. Can usually do it without removing this gear as well. But it is much easier to pull the cut washer and just remove the gear. It speeds up reassembly big time. And this is the piece that breaks right here. This little piece cracks. So what we need to do is we need to attach this broken or cracked piece to the motor shaft itself. This looks like somebody's tried to glue this before. Obviously they didn't use the right type of glue. But we'll take care of that. Get some epoxy and glue this on properly. You can see the crack right there. So what happens is this shrinks over time on this metal post, and because the metal post is not going to shrink, the plastic gives and cracks. That's the problem with plastic parts. I'm using JB Weld, which is a metal infused epoxy. So we just mix the epoxy together. Mix the epoxy with the hardener together until it's a uniform color that sets up the chemical reaction that hardens the epoxy. Now this stuff I've got sets up fairly quickly, so once you get it mixed up good, you have to apply it and work relatively quickly, otherwise it will set up. It's like 5 minutes set time. So once we've got it thoroughly mixed, I'm just going to take a little bit of it here, and we're going to put a little bit of it into the hole here. Doesn't need to be much, but I'm going to secure it on both sides. I just want to make sure that some goes down into the hole so that when I pop it onto the motor, it'll actually push it through. Like that. And I am going to put some on the top here as well, so that when I mesh it back together, it will actually go in and glue inside the other piece on here. They can be taken apart again if you're really careful. If you ever need to get in, they can be removed. It's just difficult. It's not the easiest thing to do, but they can be, but they shouldn't have to be. That's the whole point in doing this, is to make it a permanent fix so that you don't have to take it apart again. Get the screws lined up and get this thing pushed in so that it's going to turn smoothly, and then get a couple screws in here, at least get one screw in to start. And that's exactly why it's easier to pop the gear off. Much easier for the 5 seconds it takes to remove the gear. So the cement is nicely setting up now. I'm going to make sure it's still a little bit tacky. We're just going to give it a few more minutes to fully cure. While it's curing, I want to make sure that the motor doesn't get stuck, because if any gets stuck between the back of the shaft and the motor itself, it'll stick the motor. So we don't want that. So while we're doing this, we just kind of rotate it just to make sure that nothing's going to freeze up here. Otherwise, we're going to have to deal with another problem, a frozen motor. So you don't want that. And you can also, if you really want to make sure that the motor's not going to freeze, you can put your power supply on, give it a few volts to the back of the motor here, and just let the motor spin. Put, a couple volts on. You can let that thing spin forever. Let it spin while it's finishing the curing process. That way you don't have to worry about it getting gummed up. I'm giving it 2.8 volts to do this. Once the unit's ready to go back together, just make sure you have the alignment correct. You'll see the two holes here. They line up with two holes in the back side, so when you're in the correct position, you'll see the other holes below, and you can put something through it. No, that's too big here, right? So that's the correct position for assembly. On the housing itself, it also has alignment holes which line up. There's one right there. It lines up through a hole in the back of the chassis in the fully eject position. Just take the unit, put it in place, and snap it together. It'll just pop in. There's 3 alignment pins, or 2 alignment pins, one here and one over here. Once you've got it together, it'll just snap together. Make sure that the catches engage, and that's it. The unit is assembled, ready to go back into the chassis. Before reassembly, let's give the mechanism a little bit of lubrication. So we'll lubricate the rails a bit here. Doesn't need to be much because it will get worked in. and we'll lubricate the tower gear. Back side over here. And of course, put a little bit of grease into the gears here on the motor. Front loader just drops back in, just like that. All right, now I can check it out, make sure everything's working as it should. Go through all the modes. There we go. Other one fixed. Just have to clean the heads now and send it out. We'll see how much dirt's on the heads on this one. This belongs to a fellow that's in the archiving business as well, so he does know how to clean his own heads, so I don't expect to see much on here, if anything, depending on when it was last cleaned. Actually, it looks like it actually could be quite dirty. Yeah, okay, this one's got a bit of contamination, that's for sure. But it's clean now. I'm cleaning the control audio head, the erase head, and all the guides and anything that the tape touches on the tape path needs to be cleaned. I'm using 99% isopropyl alcohol to do this. Okay, this one's pretty much done. I'm just going to run another tape through here. Make sure everything's good. Color bar tape. All done. Thanks for watching.